Welcome to Mr. Rodriguez's online classroom today, guys. We're going to be focusing on Unit 2, Lesson 2.1, Tamara's Opus, Performance Punctuating Meaning. And so in this lesson, we're going to be talking about how performance is influenced by the text and how the text gains meaning through the performance and how these two things interrelate. So this is going to be really useful since we're going to be working towards next week starting Romeo and Juliet. And of course, that was meant to be performed. So the performance and how that performance comes into play will be absolutely important to understanding the text. So what we're going to do is we're going to start on this. Now I'm going to give you a quick suggestion before we get off and going on EDSB. I know sometimes in certain parts of the day it gets kind of crowded, and I know some people have been worried about typing their answers into the assessment. I send you the Word document specifically so that you could open Office 365, open up on your computer, type your answers in there, and then just copy and paste the answers into the boxes on EDSB. And you're going to do that, you can copy like you normally would, or if you want to use a keyboard shortcut, you use the control button. That is the CTRL, control bottom left-hand corner, and you'll hold that and press C, and that'll copy whatever you have highlighted. And then when you put your cursor in the answer that you want to put that answer in, you press and hold that control button again, and you press V, and that will paste it to where you want. So then you can copy and paste, so you don't have to worry about the computers getting slow, the internet getting slow. You're just copy and paste, hit submit, and you're not working in it, so you're not as contingent on it cuts off and you don't get all your answers in. So, Unit 2, Lesson 2.1, Tamara's Opus. So let's start talking about the author first, and Tamara's Opus is written by Joshua Bennett. And you'll see here that his performance, Tamara's Opus, poet Joshua Bennett is going to use sign language to punctuate his poetry. Bennett's spoken word performance is so moving that he was invited to perform this poem that he created as a tribute to his sister in 2009 at the White House. President Obama had an arts poetry type jam, and he actually invited this guy. Bennett's an author of a collection of poetry, The Sobering School, and he's a junior fellow at the Society of Fellows at Harvard University. So we look at this title and we see it has the word opus in it. And that's probably not a word we're familiar with unless we're maybe in band or orchestra, maybe chorus. An opus is an artistic work, normally musical, but it's especially one of a large scale. So when you think about this, let's look at the title. We know this is about his sister. What is this opus that his sister has? What might that be? That's going to be your first question. There's not really a right or wrong answer here, though, so you're just going to be trying to answer the question based on what information you might guess, and you could be wrong, but it's okay. It's just getting you to think about the text. So hopefully you got a chance, you paused, you answered your question, and then we'll move on to this next one. If you haven't, pause now so you can answer that first question. So now we're going to observe the shifts in perspective. So similar to the fight, Tamara's Opus tells a story of experience and change. Read Tamara's Opus and trace the narrator's development. These are going to be your two next questions. So you may want to read it once and answer the first question, read it again and answer it twice, or you could read it once a little more slowly and answer both these questions at the same time. So how does he change or shift perspective over the course of the poem? What changes do you notice? What differences do you see? That's going to be your first question. And of course, remember, you're using complete sentences. So for this second question, what words or phrases illustrate those changes or shifts in the perspective? So what words do you see focusing on these shifts? So I'm going to ask you to pause now quickly so that you can go into your Word document, type up some answers, or if you're feeling brave, you're typing your answers onto the EDSB assessment directly, or you could also just be writing them on a piece of paper and typing them in later. So pause now. Okay, so welcome back. Hopefully now you're ready for your first viewing. You're going to actually watch this performance. You're going to actually watch it a few times, so 3 times in total. So for our first viewing, what do you notice about the performance and what are your impressions? Those are some of your next questions to answer. So what do you observe and what are your impressions? So you're going to go to the PowerPoint that I've sent you. And when you click onto it, I've attached the video into it. If you can't find the video, I found it on YouTube. It's readily available. You could just search for uh, Tamara's Opus by Joshua Bennett, and you'll get the same video. But if you have your PowerPoint up, you can just hit play, and you'll be able to watch the performance. Um, I don't want to have you watching a window of a window. I feel like that's a little too confusing. So take a few moments, watch this video. It's a pretty short video. So you're going to watch this video and then you're going to answer that first question. Then you're going to pause and you're going to go to the next viewing question. Okay, so when we go to our second viewing, hopefully now you realize how much I like the poem because it's a great poem. So for our second viewing, what are all of the ways Bennett changes throughout the performance? List the kind of changes, list the kinds of changes did you notice? So what kinds of changes might you be thinking? You might talk about how he used facial expressions or sign language or rhythm or word emphasis or how he adjusted speed and tempo and volume. And so you're going to talk about how all of those things contributed to your impression of this viewing. So, what are all of these ways? What are some of the things you noticed? And then we'll get to our big third viewing where we move on to some really deeper questions. Pause now so you can get those answers down. For our third viewing, welcome back, you're going to choose 3 different elements to observe specifically for the third viewing. So again, those are things we talked about on the last slide. How he used facial expressions, how he used gestures, how he used sign language, how he used word emphasis, so focusing on specific words, speed and tempo, or how he used volume. And then you're going to explain how these elements help Bennett's performance, help the audience to better understand the significance of the changes he experienced over the course of his life. So how did these things he did sort of show the changes that he has in regards to especially dealing with his sister? So then we are going to pause here and we're going to come back for our culminating question, and then you'll be all done with this lesson. So you're almost there. Okay, welcome back. So you're going to analyze the poet's word choices. What choices did they make? So you're going to write an analysis paragraph about how Bennett use of performance techniques to demonstrate and emphasize his change over the course of the poem. So now you're taking that question you hopefully just gave me a really nice answer for. You're developing that into a nice clear claim, and then you're going to give me a couple pieces of evidence that you elaborate, and then you're going to conclude your paragraph. So again, guys, this is a full paragraph. I'm expecting topic sentence, body sentences with support and evidence and commentary, and a conclusion sentence. So if you're just writing one sentence, you're probably not getting your points for this question. Think in your thesis. How does Bennett's performance affect the poem? And then you could do your kernel expansion where you figure out maybe who is your what, your when, your where, your who, your why, your how. So you're answering those questions and you're coming up with a really wonderful thesis statement. Then you're going to go to your body paragraphs. And it's the same question for each of these. So what is one of the things Bennett uses to affect his performance? And how does it affect his overall performance? Be specific, use specific details from the text, and then explain those so that even if I didn't totally understand the poem, didn't get the thing that you picked, I'll be able to understand your answer. Then for your conclusion, explain how all of this fits together. And that's where you can use your because, but, so statement to really wrap up your ideas. So once you've finished all that, you've completed your first assignment for this week. So that's great. Good job. And congratulations, and I know you're doing a great job and you're trying really hard. So I wanna acknowledge that. I wanna also say before you go, my little saying to keep y'all going. Guys, remember to be brave, be bold, be creative, be kind, be smart, but most of all, be yourself.